Yeah, but we can't climb over this lady.
You can sit in the front row. Sit in the front row. I think it's reserved for us. Larry, Sandra, and I will sit.
That's okay.
Well, Sandra might not, but
She
Larry.
made it easy.
That's all right. We can make it. Oh, hi.
Thank you. Yeah, we can't go too
That's
far.
I try to hide it.
Believe me, I
Skill set I've developed.
Am I looking at you?
Somebody's got it.
The family, I know you had some extra chairs for everybody else who needed chairs, but the first row is the family to share. I'm guessing the second row's fine to have a seat.
Any afterwards,
Hey,
I'll take you up on that.
you turn that on.
question about stopping for I guess I'm gonna sit down. Because my knees are not good.
Okay, could the family come forward, please?
After reading that or whatever.
If I could have the family come forward, please, we're going to begin. All right, let's gather closer. We are beginning the service. There are some extra seats. If you need to have a seat, be absolutely welcome to do that. The immediate family will take a few seats in the front.
Do I have to sit? I mean, we'll need a chair more than one.
Okay, if you want to stand there.
I'll stand because I think older. Let's make sure everybody who needs a chair gets a chair first. I'm still strong.
Don't touch.
Oh, yeah, okay. Because I want to make sure. Yeah. The people who need to sit, go ahead and sit.
I want to gather a little bit closer, please.
Yeah, exactly. We have older. Yeah, exactly. Like he says, we have room to sit. We have room to sit if you like. Might you have your dance at home?
We are going to begin the funeral service for Mrs. Beatrice Berlin. If you have a cell phone, I'd ask you kindly to place it in the silent mode at this time or turn it completely off. I'd like to welcome anybody via live stream on behalf of the family. Thank you for attending. Services will be conducted by Rabbi Sholem Wahlberg of the Chabad of Glencoe. Please have a seat if anybody wishes.
We are gathered this afternoon to recognize the life, mourn the passing, and bid farewell to Mrs. Beatrice Berlin, beloved wife of the late Dr. Barney Berlin for almost 63 wonderful years, loving mother of Larry Berlin, Dr. Jordan Berlin and his wife Sara, Mrs. Sandra Mattozzi and her husband Mark, and grandmother of her beloved granddaughter Francesca. dear cousin of Barbara Zucker, Beverly Fried, Vivian Rosen, and Jerry Mosak. The Hebrew word for funeral is levaya, which means to accompany. As we are gathered to accompany Beatrice on her journey from the physical life in this world to her eternal resting place in the world of eternity. These moments do not mark an end, they mark a beginning. Jewish tradition teaches us that the soul is now beginning the journey of the afterlife, in which Beatrice will bask in God's glory. Just last Shabbat, we read the Torah portion of Lech Lecha, which means to go forth, in which God sent Avraham Avinu, on a journey to travel through life and be an inspiration to all those around him. Beatrice too just finished this journey, her journey through life, in which she indeed fulfilled this mission of Lech Lecha, to go forth and to be an inspiration for all those around her, always with a smile, with great spirits. Her presence will be deeply missed. When we gather and look for words, it is inevitable that we will come up short. We therefore turn to King David, the sweet singer of Israel, and we read from his book, the book of Psalms, hoping to find solace through his words. We'll begin with chapter 23. I will first recite it in Hebrew, and we'll then recite it together in English. You have it in the booklet. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, ben od desha yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yinahaleni, nafshi yeshovev, yancheni v'magli tzedek, lema'an shmo. Gam ki elech v'geitz al mavet, lo irara ki ata imadi, shivtecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni. Ta'aroch lefanai shelcha neged tzororai, dishanta v'shemen roshi kosi revaya. Ach, tov v'chesed, yirdefuni kol yemei chayai, v'shavti v'veit Adonai la'orech yamim. And now together in English. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The Lord is my shepherd. Just like a shepherd cares not only for the flock as a whole, but for each and every individual animal in his care, so too does God look out for and care for each and every individual. As a teacher for so many years, Beatrice too cherished the individual. She would reminisce about her students who she loved so dearly, years and even decades after she had taught them. She spoke with such great affinity about each and every one of them, overlooking their flaws and focusing on their essence, their core, their inner inherent good that only she was able to recognize. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, these words were uttered by King David, I shall fear no evil. Beatrice didn't only say those words, but she lived them. She walked for many years in the valley of the shadow of death, yet she did not fear. She did not let her illness get the better of her. With the help and constant support of her friends and family who are so dear to her, she fought with courage, with determination, and with hope. Even in the last few months of her life, she ensured that she would be able to enjoy and travel and retain control over her life. Despite everything that she was going through, her family was always her top priority. I remember a very brief encounter that I had with her in the early days of the pandemic. And I went a Friday afternoon to drop off a challah for Shabbos with a container of chicken soup, and she called out through the door, through the window, Rabbi, Seya Mishaberach, which is the prayer that we say at the Torah reading for someone who needs a blessing for recovery. Seya Mishaberach for my husband. I'm more sick than he is, but please pray for him. Her selfless devotion did not let her get caught up with her own challenges. She was always there for others. Beatrice loved first and foremost her family. She loved her students, and she loved to travel. She loved to explore, to learn new ideas, see new places, face new challenges, and come up with creative solutions. She loved to spend time at the library, where she'll be missed for her smile and her pleasant presence. It is no coincidence that Beatrice passed away the night after the anniversary of the passing of our great matriarch Rachel, Rachel Imenu. Unlike the rest of our patriarchs and matriarchs, who are buried together in the city of Hebron, Rachel was buried on the side of the road near a town called Beit Lechem. When she realized that she was nearing the end of her life, she asked her husband Jacob to bury her there, although she already had a plot set aside for her together with her ancestors. Our sages tell us that she foresaw with divine spirit that when her children will ultimately be exiled, they would travel down that very road. She therefore insisted on being buried there so that they, her children, in their time of need, will have the opportunity to pray at her gravesite for redemption. And indeed, many generations later, it was Rachel's prayers which were able to save her descendants. As the verse states, "Thus said the Lord, a cry is heard on a height, wailing, bitter weeping, Rachel weeping for her children. She refuses to be comforted for her children who are gone. Thus said the Lord, restrain your voice from weeping, your eyes from shedding tears. For there is a reward for your labor, declares the Lord. They shall return from the enemy's land. And there is hope for your future, declares the Lord. Your children shall return to their country." We commemorate and try to learn from the intense love that a human being can express towards another. A love that allows for the development of a true, objective perspective on life by seeing the positive sparks of goodness inherent in humanity and in the world over. A love that does not question the deservedness of the recipient to receive the mercy, but rather emulates God's boundless mercy, showing love to all. We will now call upon her beloved family to share a few words in her honor and memory.
Thank you. First, let me begin by thanking everybody to come out here today. Let us thank the weather gods for this beautiful afternoon in Chicago, for us to be able to commemorate my mother and her friends and her family under beautiful skies. My mom was born in 1934. I have to give you a little bit of bio. She was born in 1934 here in Chicago, and she died like Jack Benny at 39 years old. She did like Jack Benny, and she grew up on the west side of the city of Chicago. She went to grade school, and she was an only child. Her parents, Dora and Leon, had her again in 1934, and she grew up in a 3-room house or apartment. She grew up while she was an only child. She really wasn't an only child. She had sisters and a brother, Beverly and Vivian, who are both here, were 2 sisters. Barbara, who's here by on Zoom, thank you God for Zoom, is another sister. And then, of course, Jerry, who is the little brother, I believe, of the Corps, who is also on Zoom today. She grew up with them. She grew up with her friends. She grew up with her family. She grew up with her uncles and her aunts and her parents and her grandparents and her great-grandparents, only some of whom spoke English. I know I just lost a yarmulke, oh well. And she went to Marshall, and at Marshall, she headed the Honor Society. She headed her sorority. She did about everything you can imagine in a high school for a high school student. I didn't even know there were high school sororities, but there were. She was active with the B'nai B'rith and everything else. When 1957 rolled around, my mom's father passed away when she was young, when she was 18 years old, and she went to work for my Uncle High at that point. And worked with him until she married my father. She met my father in 1957. A matchmaker fixed them up. She thought they would be perfect together. He came to the door, and my mother will always say he was the perfect man. He was so handsome, and she will go on. In their infinite wisdom, they got engaged after the second date. I can't imagine anyone thinking that, especially since their second date was to see Carl Sagan speak. Could you imagine, back in 1957, he didn't have billions and billions of stars, but I'm sure he had billions and billions of something. And my mother loved it, and my dad's test was if his date loved Carl Sagan, this is who he was going to marry. It worked. Shortly thereafter, they were married. They moved to Rogers Park. They lived in Chicago, as I just said. They lived with their friends. They lived with their families. They brought up and brought more friends into their lives. And as children were born, my cousins, they brought more family members into their lives. My mother honored certain traditions, Thanksgiving being one of them. My cousins who are here live or on Zoom will all have fond memories of the dinners, of the slideshows of different people's trips, including my cousins, of the cherry cheesecake, of the food my mother, my grandmother, and everyone else would participate and bring. And everybody was welcome, all through grade school, all through college. She invited people from the University of Chicago, my alma mater, who came and shared with us. And then after college, until a couple of years ago, people were always coming to our house for Thanksgiving. It was one of those wonderful things. She did get educated. She went to Roosevelt University in Northeastern, and her joy was teaching. My mom taught first in regular school, and then she taught reading. And she taught reading mostly in Rogers Park at about 6 different schools there. And in so doing, she ended up consulting and helping the students place into the place programs they belonged in. She would take a kid who was 4th grade or 5th grade, and she would work with the people and get them to where they belonged, where they could learn best. Often, as the rabbi said, my mom had an independent spirit. This meant a good fight with the principals, the social workers, the psychologists, the lawyers, the other psychologists, the other social workers to get that kid placed. My mom was very proud of that. She was very proud of who she taught how to teach at Loyola and Concordia, where she did teach herself. She was proud of her degrees. She also, and there's a couple members here from it or on Zoom, when we were kids, she started Concerned Parents of Rogers School. And that was to help improve the education at Rogers School for the kids. My mom worked very hard on that with her friends, with my father, to get there. There's one theme in this, and I am going to near a conclusion, since I know everybody's standing. My mom loved the first Star Trek with William Shatner. He was a nice Jewish boy after all. So I'm going to quote from, I'm going to look at Captain Picard in one of his episodes. He mentions an episode called Tapestry, that life's like a tapestry, and different pieces of it are threads. And if you unravel one thread, you unravel your life. My mom was a thread. She is a thread in all of our lives. She's a very bright golden thread that just adds to the tapestries of so many people. And the theme of her life has always been to care for others, to care for her family, to care for her friends, to care for her children, to especially care for my niece, Francesca, who we all love and my mother was so devoted to. I think she put off the inevitable for a couple of years so she could be with Francesca. So my mom was that thread, and it was a wonderful thing to have her in the tapestry of all of our lives. I'm going to close with a quote, which is a little bit lengthy, but my friend Elizabeth gave this to me, and it's from The Little Prince. My mother, who traveled tons and loved traveling, from our first trips to California as little kids to the last time when Barbara and Jeannie and Laura and I went to Poland, and Henry, to see his family and meet the people who rescued him from the Holocaust. My mom loved every minute of it. And I think The Little Prince in some ways is a perfect person for her funeral. And I thank Elizabeth for the quote. And I do cry every time I read this, so you'll have to forgive me. And at night, you will look up at the stars. Where I live, everything is so small that I cannot show you where my star is to be found. My star will just be one of the stars for you. And so you will love to watch all the stars in the heavens, and they will be your friends. And besides, I'm going to make you a present. In one of the stars, I shall be living. In one of them, I shall be laughing. And so it will be as if all the stars were laughing. When you look at the sky at night, you, only you, will have the stars that can laugh. I always think of my dad when I read that paragraph. And when your sorrow is comforted, time soothes all sorrows. You will be content that you have known me. You will always be my friend. You will want to laugh with me. And you will sometimes open your window so for that pleasure. And your friends will be properly astonished to see you laughing as you look up at the sky. Then you will say to them, yes, the stars will always make me laugh. And they will think you are crazy and will be a shabby trick that I have played on you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Rabbi Schechter. Thank you, Rabbi Falk, who was so comforting. We appreciate it very much.
The original plan was to have Larry do the only speech because of fear of me making people laugh. But Larry did it first, so I can go ahead. That's my rule. Larry told you about what my mom was, and she truly was all those special things. The essence of my mom is interesting. She was a collector. She collected everything. I just handed my Aunt Diana a poem that her daughter wrote in 1968. And it was still labeled, and I knew exactly where it was from. She has about 7 to 8 million pieces of paper in her house right now that I'm currently sorting through to find the valuable ones and the other ones that just have markings that I'm unclear on. She may have known her own language. She was a traveler, as Larry said. If she stopped traveling, she stopped being who she was. And I thank Cousin Sherwin for making sure that that continued even into the last months of her life. And she was a consummate teacher. She, like Larry mentioned, she believed in her children. She believed in all of them. She still has photos of almost every child she ever taught, which I'm also sorting through. And she's got, and she always loved teaching. And she even, when the Chicago Public Schools told her she was going to teach math, one of the worst ideas the Chicago Public Schools have ever come up with. And honestly, they have a lot of bad ideas. She called me up to teach her math. After about 2 or 3 hours, because I'm not a consummate teacher, I gave up on my mother. But she still taught math. I'm not sure what she taught those kids, but she taught it. And she did what she had to do to make sure these kids had the best possible future they could have. She was a caring person, and she always cared for all of us. She took care of everybody around her. But the biggest thing about my mother was her love for my dad. It was instant, and it was forever. And, there's not that much of that in the world anymore. But if there's one thing that you couldn't do in the world, it's not bandage my dad perfectly. If you did not bandage my dad perfectly, weapons came out. And she taught every nurse in Highland Park Hospital how to bandage Dad the way she thought he should be bandaged. And she did everything she could for that man because she loved him so much, to her very dying day. So I'm glad that they're going to be together and in rest. And I thank all of you guys for coming out here. She was a very special mom to all of us, and I know she was very special to a lot of you. Thank you.
It's Jason's turn.
Just to introduce, Sandra can't read, despite my mom's teachings. So we have a substitute.
Thank you. Grace and peace to you. I am Jason, a longtime friend of Sandy and the family, and Sandra has asked me to read something that she wrote today. A month ago, I dreamt Mom and I were at the Dome of the Rock, just she and I as happy pilgrims, content to be at this holy place. It was a different life. As a child, my mother taught me to read, as I had fallen behind at school due to shyness. She was most proud of teaching her students to read, students that everyone else had given up on. I was easy, she said, but in truth, she changed everyone's life. She instructed with equal value and effect. She loved books and knowledge. She was a creative problem solver. She was an excellent diagnostician. My father said she was the smartest woman he ever met. She lived her life with passion and joy and fought for those she cared about. In the end, she cared for and kept my dad alive way past when his body had given out. She was a frequenter of libraries, a traveler, a friend. She enjoyed and was interested in everything. All her pockets were filled with articles that interested her. Our house became the house of books. Every space became full of knowledge and ideas. She and I were allies. When I was young, she helped me through tough situations, coming up with daring and creative solutions. In her old age, she trusted me to keep her safe and comfortable, using the skills she passed to me. She promised to visit in the form of the wind, the butterfly, the thunderstorm. I will see you in my dreams, Mom. We will hold hands at the Dome of the Rock. Let's pray John Donne was correct when he said, "Death is an ascension to a better library." Amen.
Thank you, Sandy.
I guess it's my turn. I didn't prepare anything either, but I'm just going to wing it. So I was thinking, what to say because everybody else said how great she was, but my speech is about how great she made me because I feel like I was so lucky to have my grandparents when I was in high school. Nobody else, some people, but most people don't live with their grandparents, and I feel like it was such an amazing experience for me because I learned so much about them, whether it was like my grandpa's cheese preferences or something actually useful. But I feel like I'm just so lucky, and I'm so grateful that I had the experience that I had with my grandma and grandpa, and I'm just really happy that I'm able to remember that when I'm older. So.
Thank you. We're now going to hear a few words from Beatrice's rabbi, Rabbi Schechter, who was unable to make it today, but he did send his message of honor and respect.
I was greatly saddened to learn of the passing of Beatrice Berlin, and I'm very sorry that I'm unable to be present at her funeral service in person. But I would like to say a few words about this lovely Jewish lady whom I have been privileged to know since she joined our synagogue, Congregation Kol Emeth, with her dear husband Barney, to whom we said goodbye last year. Bea was a teacher for many, many years in the Chicago public schools. But this was not just a job for her. It was a passion. She made sure that children were placed in the school system exactly where they really needed to be, not just at the whim of some bureaucrat. She was concerned for these children's future. And when her own children were students in elementary school in Rogers Park, she, together with Barney and others, also fought for the rights of her children and all the children in the school when a new system threatened to damage the future of these children. You know, whenever I spoke to Bea, I was always struck by her passion for justice and her passion against injustice. But when Larry told me about what she did for so many school students, I saw that this passion she expressed in speech was translated into action again and again. Her motto is given to us in the Torah: Tzedek, Tzedek Tirdof. Justice, justice shalt thou pursue. Tehei nishmata tzurura b'tzror hachayim. May her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. Yehi Zichra Baruch. May her memory ever be a blessing.
We now rise for the memorial prayer. I will first recite it in English, in Hebrew, excuse me. We'll then recite it together in English. El malei rachamim sheichein v'amraimim hamtzei menucha nechayin al kanfei hashchina b'malais kedoshim v'tahirim k'zay har harakia mazhirim es nishmas Beatrice Berlin shehalcha lo'olama v'avur shenad v'tzedaka b'ad azkaras nishmasa b'gan eden tehei menuchasa l'chein bal harachamim Yastireha v'seiser knafav lo'olamim v'yitzrar v'tzrar hachayim v'snishmasa Adonai hu nachalasa v'sanuach al mishkava v'shalayim v'noimar Amen. O God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant true rest upon the wings of the divine presence in the exalted spheres of the holy and pure, who shine as a resplendence of the firmament to the soul of Beatrice Berlin, who has gone to her supernal world, and for whose memory we pray. May her place of rest be in the Garden of Eden. Therefore, may the All-Merciful One shelter her with the cover of his wings forever, and bind her soul in the bond of life. The Lord is her heritage. May she rest in her resting place in peace. And let us say, Amen. You may now be seated. Jewish tradition teaches us that it is only the external body that has passed. The soul lives on forever. It is therefore customary for her close family members to tear their garments as an expression of grief, and to express that just like the torn garments are only the external that is being torn, so too is her passing only of the external. Her soul, her love, and her presence live on forever. I'll call up the family.
Actually, he's going to say another prayer.
Say it together in English. Okay. Blessed are you, the Lord.
Blessed are you, the Lord,
King of the universe.
King of the universe.
Dayan Ha'emet, true judge.
Dayan Ha'emet, true judge.
Sorry, we're Italian. You don't work close.
We'd like to take this moment to silently ask forgiveness for anything that may have been done with disrespect throughout the entire funeral process and throughout her lifetime. Hatzur tamim pa'alo ki chal drachav mishpat. Eil emunah ve'ein avel, tzaddik v'yashar hu. The rock, his work is perfect, for all his ways are justice. A God of faithfulness and without iniquity. Righteous and just is he. The rock, perfect in all his works. Who can say to him, what have you done? He rules below and above. He brings death and restores life, brings down to the grave and raises up from there. Righteous one in all his ways, a rock who is perfect, slow to anger and abundant in mercy. Take pity and spare both parents and children. For to you, O Lord, pertain forgiveness and mercy. Righteous are you, Lord, to bring death and to restore life, for in your hands are entrusted all spirits. Far be it from you to erase our memory. Look towards us with mercy, for yours, O Lord, are mercy and forgiveness. It's an age-old desire of many Jews to be buried in the Holy Land. The earth of the Holy Land is said to have the special qualities to be able to attain forgiveness for the soul of the departed. We therefore add some soil from the Holy Land
Just checking.
The last physical act of kindness that we do for our departed loved ones is to fill the grave with soil. It is a great comfort for the soul to know that she is being taken care of by her loving family, friends, and all those who are present. It is customary not to hand over the spade from one person to another, rather to place it back in the pile. We don't want to seem to be giving over something that symbolizes sadness and tragedy. We'll recite one final prayer, and then we'll call upon the family to begin filling in the grave, followed by whoever else would like to participate. Adonai ma adam v'teda'ehu, ben enosh v'techashvehu. O Lord, what is man that you recognize him, the son of a human that you think of him? Man is like a breath. His days are like a passing shadow. In the morning it blossoms and grows. In the evening it fades and withers. Teach us to count our days, and we shall acquire a heart of wisdom. Guard the innocent and watch the upright, for the destiny of man is peace. But God will ransom my soul from the grave, for he will surely take me. My flesh and my heart yearn. Rock of my heart and my portion is God forever. The dust returns to the ground as it was, but the spirit returns to the God who gave it. We now call upon the family to begin filling in the grave. Shir Lama'alot, Asai Nai al Ha'arim, Me'ayin Yavo Ezri. Ezri Me'im Adonai, Osei Shamayim Va'aretz. Al Yitain Lamot Raglecha, Al Yanum Shomrecha. Hinei Lo Yanum, V'lo Yishan, Shomer Yisrael. Adonai Shomrecha, Adonai Tzilcha, Al Yad Yiminecha. Yomam Hashemesh Lo Yakeka, V'yareach V'layla. Adonai Yishmorcha Mikol Ra, Yishmor et Nafshecha. Adonai Yishmor Tzitcha U'Va'echa Me'ata V'ad Olam. A song of ascents. I shall raise my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help is from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not allow your foot to falter. Your guardian will not slumber. Behold, the guardian of Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is your guardian. The Lord is your shadow. He is by your right hand. By day, The sun will not smite you, nor will the moon at night. The Lord will guard you from all evil. He will guard your soul. The Lord will guard your going out and your coming in from now and to eternity. If anyone else would like to participate.
She had a sandwich.
Wow, that's a good story. I know, I noticed that. And they seem to have been love as well.
As family and friends continue to fill in the grave, we call up the family to recite the Kaddish. Okay. Yitadal v'yitadash shmei rabah, v'alma divrah. Amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach v'alam alomei almaya. Amen. 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 He who makes peace in his high places, he shall make place upon us. He shall make peace upon us and upon all of Israel. And let us say, Amen. Adonai Natan, Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach. The Lord has given and the Lord has taken. May the name of the Lord be blessed. V'hu rachum yechaper avon, v'lo yashchit, v'hirba lahashiv apo, v'lo ya'ir kol chamato. He, being compassionate, pardons iniquity and does not destroy. Time and again he turns away his anger and does not arouse all his wrath.
This does conclude the service at the graveside. The friends and family will continue at the burial. I'd like to tell everyone about the Shiva. It'll be at the Little House of Glencoe, 690 Birch Road in Glencoe, immediately following the service here at the graveside until 9 o'clock. And then tomorrow at the Berlin residence, 838 Michigan Avenue, apartment 3B in Evanston, and that is from 6 p.m. until 9 p.m. It is on your folders. It's also on our website, so you can get that information there as well. On behalf of the family, thank you.
Okay.